Moving on from our industry award presentation, but keeping to the theme of leadership, I'm delighted to make an important introduction. 1 year ago, the NAMA Board of Directors started a long and a hard search to identify the right leader for our future. We are convinced, without question, she has the energy, the insight, and the proven experience to get the job done. Take time this week to get to know her, and you will feel the same way. It is my pleasure to introduce NAMA's President and CEO, Carla Balakgie.
I would like to take just a moment and add my congratulations to the award winners for their tremendous accomplishments. It's inspiring to me to hear about everything you do to contribute to our industry, and I personally want to recognize your well-deserved honors. Can we give them another round of applause? So, good afternoon, and welcome to the 2012 OneShow. It's really great to be here. I am thrilled, really thrilled, to be a part of this exciting show, your terrific industry, and this exceptional association. First and foremost, I'm grateful for the chance to get to know all of you a little bit better, and I look forward to talking with you over the course of the next few days. We have some planned opportunities, but I hope that whenever and wherever you see me, you will take the chance to engage. But right now, and for a few minutes, I'd like to share a little bit about my background and what I've been up to for the past 3 months or 4 months since I joined NAMA. I'd also like to discuss our current priorities, the association's role in accomplishing those goals, and what it all means for you. And finally, I'll foreshadow our vision for ensuring a very bright future for the industry, because I believe it is. So it's taken me almost 30 years to get here. And I don't mean all the way from Punxsutawney, PA, the home of the world-famous weather groundhog, and my hometown. I'm very proud of that. All 5,300 of us and dwindling. If you've been there, you know what I mean. What I mean is that I have spent my entire career working in mission-based organizations just like this one. Many of you probably know that before joining NAMA, I headed up an association called ETA, the Electronic Transactions Association. And as it turns out, ETA and NAMA have quite a bit in common. So when it comes down to it, all associations exist to do one thing: to serve their members. It's why we exist. It's our reason for being. Our job is to help members identify and seize opportunities, improve your businesses, and in some cases, to keep everybody out of trouble, particularly when it comes to things like burdensome legislation. But the parallels between NAMA and ETA go a lot deeper than that. Both are B2B supply chain, and they represent industries that enable the delivery of products and services to consumers. More importantly, they are both being driven by an explosion of consumer preference and of technology that's enabling, if we choose to pursue it, tremendous growth. Of course, in many ways, those two things go directly hand in hand. What I mean is, new developments in payment technologies are joining with point-of-sale innovations and are transforming vending and refreshment services, or have the potential to, an entirely new consumer experience. You will see many of these innovations on the show floor later today, and you will see many more in the future. I'm excited to bring my extensive background in payments to my role at NAMA. I do believe it will become very handy as we make our way forward into a new era of refreshment services. So many of you know, and you've probably seen the photos, that I have spent a few months, probably the first quarter of 2012, on a listening tour, and it was called that for a reason. Getting to know our members and the industry that they comprise. I traveled thousands of miles, and thousands, and I probably spent more time in cars and airplanes than I really care to recall. I know you all can relate to that. But I also saw some beautiful country along the way, and I met some really, really wonderful people. The experience was a gift, and it was totally worth it. My primary goal was to immerse myself in your industry and to hear from you about your day-to-day operations. I determined early on that I couldn't be effective in this role unless I was an inbound pipeline, understanding your needs, your challenges, and your goals. So, I spent time with operators, suppliers, distributors, brokers, manufacturers, and route drivers. I even rode on coffee service and vending routes, which was a blast. Now, I will confess, there were a few moments when fashionable shoes and manufacturing facilities weren't necessarily compatible. Hopefully none of those photos got into this mix. But I will say that overall, it really was phenomenal to be there and to live your lives for a day. All of it has really helped me to get a pulse on what's happening out there. So I'd like to tell you what I learned. It's clear that vending and refreshment services is diverse, and it's evolving, ranging from large national and even international players to mom-and-pop entrepreneurs. You all know where you fit in. But the point is, you are all critical to the success of the supply chain. Every company has its unique origins. And although you're all in the same general line of work, how you do what you do, it has evolved in its own way. Some of you have stood fast by your original missions, and others of you have chosen to expand and diversify, blurring the lines around what is and isn't refreshment services. But there are many, despite those distinctions, there are many common threads as well. For example, those of you in vending operations are concerned about margins, pricing, capital expenditures, and profitability. Like all businesses, you've been affected by the recession, and it's meant that you have to do more with less. And to maximize your returns, you are laser focused on efficiency and productivity. I've seen it. If you have, or if you aspire to add coffee, tea, and water services to your operations, or hybrid functions such as micro markets, I would wager that you are most likely seeking ways to exploit new sales and revenue opportunities from these growth vectors. And I know I don't need to tell you that regardless of the services you offer, you are in a fiercely competitive business. You're all vying for the shrinking share of the consumer's wallet, and you're under pressure to compete on a variety of levels. You have to continually explore new ways to diversify and improve your offerings in order to grow your share of your customer and of the market. Sound familiar? I also observed the impact of merger and acquisition activity on this industry, a trend that is not likely to abate anytime soon. According to the Association for Corporate Growth, the availability of more than $500 billion in investment capital, as the banks have been hanging on to it, signals an oversupply of cash that is going to accelerate M&A activity. Now, that doesn't sound so good, right? Well, that liquidity will also fuel reinvestment, innovation, and growth for the savvy entrepreneur. And speaking of savvy, I witnessed a very large dose of entrepreneurism on the tour. I was really touched by the generations of family businesses who have endured and thrived through years of dedication and innovation, and by the sheer numbers of really good people working really hard. In the end, I gained a much better understanding of your world than I ever could have sitting behind a desk in Chicago. And I thank you for opening your doors and your businesses to me, and for making me feel so welcome in your community. Thank you. So, another thing became clear on the way. That change is in the air. Right? Sounds trite. I believe it. As I toured around the industry, I couldn't help noticing how the forces in the broader business environment are affecting this channel. Many of the suppliers, who you will see later here today at the show, are developing game-changing technologies that could hold great appeal for consumers and for compelling commerce. Social media, mobile apps, loyalty programs, electronic payment devices, and so on. Sounds exciting, but there's a gap between that reality and the world as we know it. To get there, we must change the way we do what we do. And it's not just this industry, it's many industries. This can be, of course, hard, because it requires the investment of time and resources when you're already battling to keep your margins up now. But change we must, because the future will come, whether or not we choose to engage it. So I urge you, if you walk away from the OneShow with nothing else, please take away a new idea that you can implement in your business, and then do it. Only by advancing innovative thinking and anticipating the future can we arrive at a place where vending and refreshment services achieves its full potential as a vibrant business sector. President John F. Kennedy once said, "Change is the law of life, and those who look only to the past or the present are certain to miss the future." Through the listening tour, I accomplished a couple of key objectives, some of which I've already said. I've got to know you. And NAMA can only represent you well if we understand you and your needs. And number two, it allowed me to assess NAMA's priorities and where you stand on them. And so that's what I'd like to talk about next, our priorities. Over the past few months, you've heard, I hope, about an ambitious strategy called the Industry Growth Strategy, which we euphemistically call the IGS. The IGS is a comprehensive program, and its purpose is to facilitate facilitate growth by revitalizing the image of vending and traditional OCS in the eyes of consumers, particularly Gen Y, the customer of the future, and today. As part of this advocacy effort, because that's what it is, we took to the road on what we call the Gratitude Tour. We hit 7 major cities, and we put all the latest vending machines and products, OCS machines, technologies in front of consumers. Some of you may have been at the UNLV event yesterday. It was a raging success. It was my first, but there were kids stacked up in lines. They were engaging. They were having a lot of fun, and we didn't melt down in the process. So, and we had some very, very good media. So it showcased our industry particularly well, and it helped us to tell our story. Remember that line, tell our story, because that's something I will be talking to you about a little later. So in the last year, we also created a presence as part of IGS on Facebook and in other social media sites, engaging thousands of Gen Y and other consumers to fall in love with the new generation of vending. But perhaps the biggest and most exceptional accomplishment was the media it generated. The positive coverage that we got about all aspects of vending. When all is said and done, we achieved the equivalent of 6 Super Bowl ads with our image campaign. The value of that kind of publicity cannot be under or overstated. What's that MasterCard campaign? Priceless? But you know what? We've only just begun. Telling our story is a journey that will never end, because we will always be striving to position the industry for growth. Another of our current priorities is our attention to coffee, tea, and water, or what we call CTW. As this sector continues to flourish, our mission is to recognize and to amplify the role that CTW plays in your businesses, and to better reflect that in NAMA's work, all of our work. At our most recent board meeting in February, we approved a multi-year plan to do just that. And the board's foresight in this regard will pay dividends for you for years to come. And we have a rather lofty goal when it comes to CTW. Goals should be lofty. Our goal is to foster growth in the on-premise refreshment services industry by facilitating industry, company, and individual success. Trifecta. So what does that look like? Well, over the next 12 months, here's some things you'll see. First, through market research, we will help you understand customer and consumer preferences, the demographics of the shifting workforce and workplace, and then we will help you develop target messages, the right messages for these audiences. Second, we'll work to more aggressively affiliate our industry and NAMA with things like National Coffee Week by showcasing office coffee service to consumers. Think about something like Get Your Coffee at Work Day and the media that could be associated with that. Third, we will establish best practices for you and for your benefit by better enabling you to exchange information among each other, and by enhancing our education and training programs that we deliver to you, so among you and to you. And finally, we'll continue to advance the CTW show, which is growing by leaps and bounds, just like the industry that it represents. And this year's event is slated November 13 through 15 in New Orleans, but it will remain a focal point for fostering high-quality education and business-to-business networking in this dynamic sector. So, I've talked about 2 priorities. I have 2 more, and then some more. In addition to CTW, government affairs continues to be a mission-critical undertaking for NAMA. As you all know, government regulations continue to be imposed on our industry, sometimes at an alarming rate and from multiple directions. In fact, over the past 3 years, the level of federal regulation that resulted from healthcare and financial services reform hit levels not seen since the 1930s, post-Depression. And the repercussions are going to be rolling out for some time to come. Throughout, NAMA's government affairs team has worked diligently to protect your interests at the local, state, and federal levels. So what do I mean? Well, in the last year, we provided you a variety of tools to help you adapt to ADA accessibility guidelines that just went into effect last month. I hope some of you got to participate in one of our webinars. That's an example. We continue to monitor developments with the calorie disclosure requirements in Federal Health Care Reform Act, which is under review by the Supreme Court, and we expect a decision in June. But in the meantime, we will continually and proactively demonstrate how our industry does its part to help consumers make balanced choices in their diets. In the area of payments, something a little near and dear to my heart, and about which I know a little, we're working closely with the U.S. Mint and the Bureau of Engraving on pending coin and currency redesigns and how they will affect the vending industry. But we're also working with the Federal Reserve on ways to lower the transaction costs of electronic payments. We're also talking to the payment networks about the same topic. On the state level, NAMA continues to aggressively lobby against harmful taxes that can hurt your bottom lines. In fact, we secured a significant victory this year in the state of Georgia when we achieved tax relief on vending items and saved operators in that state an estimated $7.8 million per year. That's a win. As you can see, we take very seriously our responsibility to represent your interests, to keep you informed of legislative developments, and to guide you on how to mitigate the impact of these laws on your business. And we need your help. So we urge you to get involved, if you're not, in your state councils and to be a part of our grassroots advocacy efforts, because we need your help to protect our industry from overreaching government intervention. The last priority, of course, is the reason we're all gathered here: the NAMA OneShow. Since the OneShow was launched in 2010, it has continued to successfully attract new exhibitors, new attendees, and new energy. Last year's total attendance was up, I believe, more than 11%. And as you will soon see, we're about to best that. This show is bigger and better than any OneShow and any other in recent history. We think you'll agree that the OneShow is the ultimate celebration of innovation in our industry, and it plays a critical role in our growth. With that in mind, I want you to know how much we appreciate that you're here and all the contributions you make to the success of this conference. You are what makes it possible. So now that I've reviewed NAMA's current priorities, I want to take it a step further. And I want to share my view of the association's role, which is broader than just the specific initiatives and examples that I shared with you, some of our successes. As a trade association, NAMA must serve its members in 4 critical areas. And we should consistently and effectively engage in these activities on your behalf. The 4 areas are advocacy, knowledge, education, and networking. Let me share my vision for the future in each of these areas. First, advocacy. This manifests in the form of government affairs, industry affairs, and public affairs. So as I explained earlier, IGS is a great example of public-facing advocacy that we're executing on your behalf. Another is to intensify our efforts as your advocate at state and federal levels of government by taking point and directly engaging public officials on issues of specific importance to your business. We will work in coalition with other interest groups to leverage our footprint, our resources, and our voice on matters of common concern with those other groups. And as a result, when issues arise, NAMA will be recognized as a power that belongs at the table. As we cultivate our grassroots network, we will train you to advocate directly with your elected officials and to weigh in on our lobbying efforts so that your voice is heard. I will tell you, elected officials want to hear from you, you who vote for them, you who contribute to their local economies, and you who re-elect them. As for industry affairs, we will strengthen our relationships with other trade associations to advance our government affairs agenda, and also to engage with payment networks and other private sector regulators who also initiate pricing and compliance requirements that affect your business. It isn't just the government anymore. Next is knowledge. So I will posit that NAMA already provides a range of research and reference on many issues of importance to you, our members. My vision is to deepen this commitment and to make NAMA your go-to resource for critical business intelligence. This goes beyond providing just information, but making sense of the avalanche of available data and delivering to you only the most relevant and important information. It might be white papers, it might be electronic news briefs, studies, or best practices. How we do it will be varied. But the payoff for you is that we want to make it easy for you to find and utilize what you need to know so you can run your business. The third area in our mission planks is education. Some may call this professionalism. It also embodies thought leadership. Regardless of what we call it, NAMA's job is to keep you up to speed on the trends and issues that impact your business. So this definitely includes some of the topics that are being covered at the show this week. Micromarkets, cashless payments, and much, much more. But a lot of that is focused on what we already know today. You can see it, you can touch it. I envision a role for NAMA that allows us to scan the environment and anticipate the changes and opportunities that will have the greatest effect on your business down the road. We will concentrate on developments that are less clear and less certain today, and equip you with the foresight and understanding to make reasoned business decisions about the future. So, an example of this would be a CEO forum, where you can gather with other execs. And at this event, we will examine horizon issues in a number of areas: economic, technological, legislative, general business. And it'll also foster strategies and partnerships to address them. It also requires that NAMA create world-class research and have the ability to do that as a way of fostering those deliberations. Another example is to attract to NAMA the partners and the players who are the future, and to tap their intellectual war chest on your behalf. So what's the payoff for you? Well, the result is that while you're busy managing your day-to-day business and the considerable demands that go with it, we will be looking ahead, we will be anticipating, and we will be helping you to position your company to profit from the future. And finally, the fourth area where NAMA will serve you is embodied in our name. The final A in NAMA represents the power of association by our members through business-to-business and individual networking. The OneShow is our biggest asset in that regard. And I know that for many of you, that's why you're here. And we're pleased to make that possible. So it's our intention to protect and to maximize this show as the preeminent business-to-business forum in the industry. And in addition, we seek to do the same with the CTW event and other new venues. Regardless of how we do it, we will always provide you with superior ways to foster your connection to one another. This is my vision for the role that NAMA will play and the way we will serve you. By being your advocate and providing you with knowledge, education, and networking forums, we will fulfill our mission and enable your success. So before I conclude, I'd like to leave you with some final thoughts about the future. First, and unequivocally, we will continue to execute with excellence on all the good work that NAMA has always done for you. From my perspective, as a recent entrant to the industry, I see an enormously bright future. It's part of what attracted me to the leadership opportunity at NAMA. With technology driving change and consumers embracing it, the prospects really are quite enormous. With this in mind, I see opportunities for going beyond our traditional business channels, whether it be new aspects of CTW, non-consumable goods, unattended retailing. Who knows what else? What space should we own? But we have the right and the reason to carefully examine and exploit each of these opportunities or rule them out. And NAMA will be your partner every step of the way. At the same time, NAMA can't do it alone. We must all work together to drive progress in our industry. And we must all be vested in the future. There's no doubt we're at an inflection point in the industry. And our ability to thrive in the future depends heavily on how we navigate the waters ahead. For the last year and a half, NAMA has invested deeply in creating the future we all seek, and we achieved some fairly significant progress with the IGS and the CTW strategy I've described today. But you'll remember I said we've only just begun. Because in order to continue to build on this momentum, I'm pleased to tell you that today we are launching a capital campaign called Positioning for Growth. The Positioning for Growth campaign is designed to pool our industry's resources to achieve 3 objectives: to strengthen our advocacy program and to amplify the collective voice of the industry, its influence with legislators, stakeholders, and the general public. We want to tell our story. It's designed to create a distinctive, independent, and authoritative source of research and data on the industry so that we can tell our story and that we have actionable data to run our businesses. And lastly, the campaign is intended to provide foremost thought leadership on all aspects of the industry, current and prospective, by providing enhanced education, business strategy, and essential knowledge. As you consider these critical competencies and what it's going to take us to deliver on that vision and that promise, I invite you to join us and invest in our shared future. The great computer scientist Alan Kay once said, "The best way to predict the future is to create it." So take a really good look around. Look around the show. See the possibilities. Embrace the new and different. And envision what will position your company to profit from this new world order. It's all there for the taking. You know, the groundhog is not the only prognosticator that Punxsutawney produced. I make forecasts too, and this is mine. Ladies and gentlemen, this is our time. We have it within our grasp to create a new future for vending and refreshment services. A new age is on the horizon, and we can seize it. Join us on this most exciting of journeys and reap the rewards of doing so. Thank you, and I look forward to working with you in the months and years ahead.